When I read that the musical creator and singer-songwriter for The Notebook, Ingrid Michaelson, said she cried during all the performances she saw of this show when on Broadway, I thought it was just a selling point. But I have to admit that I was very wrong, and I want to talk about this show. Hi San Diego, my name is Joel, and I create content around plays and musicals, especially in Southern California, and this time I saw The Notebook. This Equity National Tour was in San Diego as part of their 2026 tour. This original musical, based in the best-selling novel by Nicholas Sparks and the beloved 2004 movie with Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams. This musical closed on Broadway in 2024, but not before announcing its tour that started in 2025. This is my first time watching this show, but of course I've watched the movie, so I was able to detect a few things that I will talk more in depth later on in this video. If you've seen the show, I would love to read your thoughts, so make sure to leave them in the comments below. So let's start with what the story is about. The Notebook tells the story of two lovers and their never-ending love and the struggles that they have to endure for them to be together. The protagonists are Ali and Noah, and are the main focus for the story to move forward. In the movie, while the story is linear, meaning young, then adult, then elder, the stage version takes its creative liberties and have them work alongside each other. When I read that that's what happened in the story, I was skeptical if it would work or if it would be a mess. I mean, having all three stages at the same time. But after watching the show, I can say that they did an amazing job to have all three stages work together. What I mean is that, for example, on one part their love is put on pause, so that means Ali has to leave. In all three stages at the same time, the story connects that Ali has to leave for some reason. While being young, it's because her parents. As an adult, because second thoughts, and as an elder, because of the Alzheimer's. So that's more of a symbolic leaving, but you get the point. This is a very well-paced show. I was paying attention to the people around me and there was never a dull moment. Everyone was paying attention to the stage, crying out loud, and just being immersed in the whole story. I have to say though, I've heard from other people that they found it boring. And some people even left before intermission. So take what I said with a grain of salt. It would be a matter of preferences. It seemed that every time the musical was aware that the show could enter a slow moment, they counterbalanced it with a moment so heartbreaking that it kept you watching. And this is where I would say that the dialogue and scenes of older Ali works perfectly, since it sets the pace. This part was performed by the amazing Sharon Catherine Brown, and she had an amazing performance. In a bit, I will talk more about the whole cast, but I wanted to mention that here. Something I saw is that in the story, there are parts that if this is your first time watching The Notebook, you'll get all the necessary details. For example, when Noah is explaining that Ali wrote the notebook to bring her back, it gets mentioned. On the movie, it was written on the back of the notebook. So this musical book allows you to still get those details to make sense in certain parts. And now let's talk about the cast. When this musical was on Broadway, there was something specifically that was always polemic. And I need to talk about the elephant on the room. They decided to make the cast interracial. And while that's not a problem at all, the issue people had back then was that they combined actors. So for example, young Noah was white, middle Noah was black, and older Noah was white again. This made the show feel somewhat disconnected since you didn't see the same person grow. You were seeing different people. Of course, Ingrid and Becca defended themselves, mentioning that they did this on purpose since the story is supposed to be for anyone independently of race and age. But of course, at the end of the day, this is live theater, this is a musical. There are certain things that, yes, while you can adapt and modify, there are some other parts that you have to be aware. And I think that not being able to see the same person grow, it can have its issues. But I have amazing news, and because for this tour version, that situation was fixed. All three stages are the same. So with that, I mean that all three Noahs were white, for example. The cast is still interracial, but all three stages are the same. This makes the story feel more immersive so that you're actually watching a specific person grow. The main cast is made up by 6 people, 3 Noahs, Kyle Manwood as young Noah, Ken Wolf Clark as middle Noah, and Bo as older Noah. And 3 Allies, Chloe Cheers as young Allie, Alicia as middle Allie, and Sharon Catherine Brown as older Allie. While all 6 had a very strong performance, having chemistry between not only their counterpart, but also all stages of the same characters, I must say that the standouts to me for this performance were Kyle Mangold as young Noah and Alicia as middle Allie. Both performances were just so amazing to watch. Kyle is mainly the one you see throughout the first part of the musical, while Alicia has the song My Days. Both of them made me cry in their own way, which is pretty rare, I must admit. This musical, since it's based on an already established story, due to the best-selling novel and movie, it had a big shoe to fit. But I think, since this is a rom-com, it was able to fit perfectly. Since you don't need to be complex to show the story, this works as well with the music and lyrics. So I can see if you love this movie, you can love this musical as well. And with that, let's talk about the orchestra. This time, the musical director was Tina Fey, and she did an amazing job. The balance of instruments and the orchestration itself, it's pretty similar to the original cast recording, which is appreciated. But the whole balance of instruments allows you to hear more instruments used, almost like a Foley. What I mean by that is that there are parts that has a loud bang, which sounds pretty similar to the sound of a thunder, which makes sense considering the upcoming rain scene later on the show. Also, a very cool detail I heard is that since the beginning, there is a ticking clock that gets faster as the show is about to start, which of course made sense. This is a show about time. Overall, they did an amazing job. Congratulations, Tina. And now let's talk about stage design. The stage design is simple. While it does have a change of scenery, there is not that much either. You have the nursing home, the porch, and the house pretty much, but some assets gets reused depending on the situation. Also, at the very top, you have these bars of light that change depending on the mood, the scene, the season, which I really enjoyed. It allows you to know exactly when this was taking place. At night, on the sun. It was fun to watch what those lights would do. But something I must say was pretty funny to me is that there is this sliding stage wherein 2 scenes gets used mainly and are on the steamy ones. But I found it funny because in both scenes, Noah is kneeling. And since it gets pulled off stage while being kneeled, I saw how he was losing balance because it was an abrupt push and pull. So yeah, that was pretty funny. And now I want to talk about what worked on this musical to me. And let's start with the rain scene. Same as with the movie, it feels like the whole musical is a build-up to this scene. And when it pays off, it's really cool to see rain on an actual stage. It makes the scene feel so immersive, but I also must say that it's very distracting. I love the scene, I love watching rain, but if you tell me what were the 2 actors doing on stage, I don't remember. I just remember the scene. And I'm not sure if that has happened to anyone else. Like I said, it's pretty cool, but it's distracting. The older Noah and Allie being in the background for most of the time while the story was being told works so well, because since it's telling you that what you're seeing is the retelling of the notebook while the actual people reading it are right there. So you're just watching the stories unfold while the people that are reading it, it's in the background. I don't know, I liked it. Something I have to be very clear about. While my friends and I like this show, this is not for the die-hard musical fans. Why? Because it might not be what you expect. This is a very digestible show with indie-like songs and a very simple stage and story. If you're expected this complicated show that leaves you thinking for a while, let's say a Hamilton, a Phantom, a Les Mis, this might not be for you. But on the contrary, if you're a lover or a fan of rom-coms, this will be perfect for you. I would say that I give this show a 3.8. While I liked it, it is not the best musical I've seen, and I have to agree that in some part it still leaves room for improvement. But does that mean that I won't have songs on repeat on my musical playlist? Of course not. But it's not the first one I would recommend if anyone asks me for recommendations. And well, those were all my thoughts on my full review of The Notebook. But once again, I want to ask you, leave me in the comments below if you've seen this show, what your thoughts were. And of course, that will be all on my end. In the upcoming days, I will be releasing the full story behind MJ the Musical, because that's the next up here in San Diego. This musical will be actually in a couple of weeks on May 5th to May 10th. So make sure to hit that subscribe button, those notifications bell, and I'll see you behind the anchor.